Welcome to another edition of our Black History Month Staff Spotlight. I am joined by one of my favorite folks in McHale, Miss Michelle, and I will let her introduce herself here in a little bit. But once again, my name is Thomas Harris, and I serve as the Assistant Athletic Director for Diversity, Inclusion, and Employee Engagement with Arizona Athletics. And this is a continuation of our Black History Month Spotlight, where we talk to some of our Black staff members about the Black experience and their experiences within college athletics. So let's meet Michelle. Michelle, if you just want to introduce yourself, tell us your name, your title, and how long you've been at the U of A.
So I am Michelle Skog. I am one of the mental health counselors in the clinical and sports psychology department. And I have been in this position for a little over a year and a half at this university.
Awesome. And we're excited to have you on board and glad that you've been doing all the great work that you're doing, which we'll get into here shortly. So just tell us a little bit about like your duties and responsibilities for your role.
Okay, so my main job is to provide clinical services to our student athletes. So counseling for mental health concerns, and then obviously for any sport performance type concerns as well. So providing those appointments throughout the week are most of my duties. And then we also work with coaches and support staff in helping the student athletes and being able to support them. So performance team meetings, treatment team meetings with athletic trainers, and then other meetings with some of the team physicians as well. So quite a bit is included in my position, which I think is great because I get a chance to not just do therapy, but I also get to work with other people and help develop either programs or just resources that we can use to help, anyone in the department who may need it. So it's a really great job. I do enjoy it.
Absolutely. Some important work that you and your team does. So we appreciate that. And so you've had a little bit of a unique journey when it comes to your career in getting into college athletics. So talk to us about, when you started in this type of industry and to where you are now.
So my journey was a little bit longer than probably some of my other colleagues. I actually went to this university. So I graduated from the University of Arizona and I was a track athlete here. So once I graduated, I ran professionally for about 6 years. And then I realized I needed to go back to school. So I went and got my master's of counseling and started work in an agency setting, working with children. And then eventually I moved into some residential treatment and then some supervisory type roles. I worked in a hospital where I admitted patients for inpatient psychiatric services. I have worked for insurance companies with elderly in senior living homes, and then eventually ended up here after I started private practice and became an outside provider for about 2 years here. And then a position opened up in the department. And so I was able to then come on board full time. So I've been a therapist now for 17 years. So it's been quite a journey, but I've worked almost every place possible, I think, in mental health. And so it's been great because I've learned so many things and I've had an opportunity to work with so many different populations. So that's been pretty eye-opening, but also very rewarding.
Yeah, and we're lucky, that you've had that journey because you've been able to work in so many different sectors of this industry and to be able to bring that experience to our student athletes, I think is a severe plus for us. And so
I love it.
We're lucky to have you on board and, having all that experience. So,
thank you.
And so mental health and mental health counselors and things like that is sort of a new phenomenon in college athletics, and having folks on staff who are dedicated to that And we're also lucky that you are a person of color serving in this role, as a lot of our student athletes are persons of color, and sometimes it's easier to talk to people who look like you when it comes to these tough topics. So talk a little bit about the importance of having that representation on our staff for our underrepresented students.
Well, it's kind of as you said, that having so many athletes here that are people of color, being able to have someone that you can relate to has, I think, been a benefit to our athletes. I definitely have had some who were hesitant in the past to reach out for services, but then felt more comfortable doing it when they saw that there was an African American on staff, and just felt like some of the things that they have been through, I would be able to relate to a little bit more. And so that, I think, has been a blessing, and definitely something that I had put into consideration when I applied to be on staff here, was wanting to make sure that that diversity was there. And I really felt like that was going to be an important piece in the department, to have someone of color who could relate to our student athlete population. And granted, there are times as well that that doesn't matter for some, but it definitely can be an important factor, especially in the minority population, that one, mental health and seeking out services is not something that is easy, and something that in the past has been, I don't know how to say it, but just something that has been just voluntarily gone, like, sought after. It's kind of been a little bit of taboo in the past of, maybe you need something else, but it's not that. And so I think just knowing that it's okay to reach out for help, and seeing that there is someone in this field that can help you, just really is a great thing to be able to have, especially here at our university. So I know this was not available when I was here, so I'm very thankful that I can be a part of it for someone else.
For sure. Once again, we're very lucky to have you and the folks on your team. And so for our student athletes right now, there's so much going on with COVID. And then on top of everything they've had to do with the COVID protocols, they still have school, they still have practice, they still have games, they still travel. And then there's also, for mainly our Black students and other students of color, there's also this modern day civil rights movement going on, in a race for social change. So without getting into any specifics, obviously, but talk about what you're going through right now and that you're talking to our students about. It's kind of a range of all of those, or what's that look like?
Right now, I the majority of what I'm seeing right now is the COVID protocols, the stressors of everything that's happening right now, just because, as you know, most of our sports are in season right now. And so adding all the protocols and virtual school and practice sessions and everything, it's been a little overwhelming for quite a few of our students. And then when more things are brought up in the social justice movement, that definitely adds on another layer. I think I saw more of the concerns and anxieties or fears, or even sadness in regards to the social justice movement more of last year, when it was really at its heightened point. And not that it's any less important now, but I also think that because there's not so much in our faces right now, it's still there, but now it's more, okay, I have all these other things that I'm concerned about in this moment, because I have to figure out, how do I perform through all of these stressors, knowing there's still COVID, and now we're going to travel, and am I going to get to compete? Am I not? And a lot of our athletes have really had to rework their perception of their identity. And I think that has also been a huge shift for a lot of our athletes, and especially some of the athletes of color that I saw last year. A lot of them had tied their identity to their sport. And when they did not feel like their sport was going to happen, some of them felt lost. And so that was a hard thing for them to address and to acknowledge, that it was there. And some of them really did some work to try to figure out, who am I outside of my sport? And that's not an easy thing to do, but I'm very excited for those that really took that journey on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've had numerous conversations with some of our student athletes, specifically our leaders with our SAC diversity inclusion department and in their or committee, and they just continue to talk about how it's important for them to have an identity outside of sports, and then also how important it is for our coaches, staff, and fans to support them off the court, off the field as well. So we
Absolutely.
really appreciate those conversations that you're having. And so, on top of your role with helping with our student athletes, you also are part of our Inclusive Excellence Council, and you
Yeah.
also provide some support for our staff too. So, talk to us about some of the things that you do with our Inclusive Excellence Council to support our staff.
So last year, I definitely got to be involved along with Roberta in doing our Continue the Conversations. And so, being able to even just look into a little bit more of the African American culture, and history, and have those conversations with staff was really eye-opening. And it was, I think, something that I was very grateful for, to be able to just be in the room and start those conversations. And it was really great to be on there with staff who are willing to ask questions and even just give their opinion about things. And I think that while what happened last year was so traumatic for some of us, I think it has also opened the door for so much communication between all of us, and to, you know, be able to check ourselves as well on what our attitudes and perceptions are of one another. And so I think that has just been really great. And, moving into this year, working on some Wellness Wednesday conversations, and again, trying to look into how can we be healthier individuals emotionally, physically, mentally, and just make sure that we do our best to be intentional about how we take care of ourselves and others around us. And so I'm really excited to keep doing those things and doing the staff chats. I haven't done one of those yet. So the virtual chat. So I love being on this committee. I think it's really great. And the work that we're doing to just make sure that we also take care of one another in this athletic department, I think is huge, because our jobs can be very taxing. And I think to know that we also look out for each other is a great thing.
Yeah, and obviously in my role supporting our staff, I really appreciate all the work that you and Rachel and our sports site department has done, through our IEC and for our staff. I get so many compliments every time we have a Wellness Wednesday where you all are
Oh, that's
featured.
great.
So thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
continue to
for
do that.
sure.
And so, yeah, for sure. And so, switching gears to Black
Mhm.
History Month. So, a part of the IEC, we do come up with the celebrations that we'll do for the different history and heritage months. And in February, we are celebrating Black History Month, as you can see on your
Mhm.
background. And a part of that is introducing the new Wildcat face logo that you have on the back of your screen as well. And so, there's many different icons within this logo, and when I have these conversations, I like to pick out one that I think is important to the person that I'm talking to. And so for you, as a former track athlete, and your daughter I know is going into track and field as well, there's the track symbol back there. It's the old school track symbol. So talk a little bit about track and how that's played in your life and as a part of your
Man,
identity.
where to start? So I started running track when I was 7. So I started at a very young age. My brother ran track, so I ran track. My dad was a track athlete as well, during his high school years, I believe. And I was naturally fast. And I essentially ran track until I was 28 years old. So I ran track every year of my life for 21 years. And I was able to come to college here and run with Fred Harvey, who was my track coach and who's the director of track and field and cross country now. And along that journey, I didn't even know that there was this world after college. I had no idea that you could run on a professional circuit or even try out for all of these teams. I don't know how I thought Olympic teams were made, but it just didn't occur to me that that was something that I would be able to do. And I remember freshman year, Coach Harvey asking me if I wanted to go to Junior Olympics, and I declined because I was like, no, I want to go home. I spent all year here running. I just want to go home. And then after that, I started to progress. And Coach Harvey saw something in me that I had no idea was there. And after a freshman year said, by the way, you're a 400 hurdler. And I remember looking and thinking, yeah, I think you're crazy, but okay. And that was my event. That became the event I was known for. It became the event that I did as a professional athlete. And so when I graduated, I was a 400 hurdler, and I ran professionally for almost 6 years, and I was able to make the Pan American team, World University Games team. I was on the World Championship team in 1999, and I came in 6th in the world in Spain. And just to have those experiences of being able to travel to different countries and stay in different hotels and just see different tracks and different teams, and being around all these athletes that some didn't speak English. And so to share that love of sport with them was really cool, because sometimes we'd be at track meets and the announcer spoke a completely different language. We had no idea what he was saying, but we all knew in the blocks, set, go. That was enough. So it didn't matter what you were saying. We knew that if you said another word, that probably meant set, and then eventually the gun was going to go off. And so that was just probably one of the biggest and best blessings of my life, was to be able to just experience this sport that, one, I made so many friends in. And it gave me, like I said, the opportunity to travel and learn more about myself. And I did a lot of growing up being a professional athlete, because I had to do things not per se on my own, but I didn't have a team anymore. So it was really on me to make sure that I was doing everything I needed to do to be successful, which meant going to bed early and waking up for 6 a.m. lifting every day and eating what I was supposed to eat and not going out. And I made a lot of sacrifices. And it was also for my career. And so I don't regret any of that. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I learned about being accountable to myself and being responsible and owning up to my own success and my own errors. And I thank God every day that I was able to have that, and that I had Coach Harvey, because he also helped me grow up. And being able to take that then into the working world has been amazing, because I know what I need to do to hold myself accountable. And I feel like if I could do all of that for that many years and put my body through that, I can go to work every day and do other things that are not as hard on my body. So it was great. Definitely part of who I was a track athlete growing up. And, eventually I learned that track was something that I participated in, but it didn't make me who I was, because eventually I ended up having to have foot surgery, and I wasn't able to compete anymore. And when I tried to make the Olympic Games, I was in 2nd place rolling into that finish line. And then I hit the last hurdle and I came in 4th, and I was devastated. And that's, I think, when the light bulb went off for me, that said, okay, so you've worked your whole life for this and it wasn't in God's plan. And that's okay too. You still had so many other opportunities. And I was able to move on from that, I think, very more easily than others, because I didn't tie my identity to that race or me not making that team. It was just, okay, that's what happened. Let's move on. And so I think for me, that was huge.
Absolutely. And that's why we have those sports logos within the logo with the track and football and basketball, because not only are we paying homage to, the folks who broke barriers in their sports, the Jesse
Mhm.
Owenses of the world and different things like that, but also to tell the story of the letter winners and the current student athletes within the University of Arizona athletics program, and just how sports has been an outlet, for folks like you, and not your entire identity, but played a huge role in your
Yeah,
development as a person.
definitely.
So we're happy to represent that in that
Yeah,
logo. Well, that's all the time we have
awesome.
today. I really appreciate you taking the time and speaking with me, Michelle, and I know our LinkedIn audience will definitely love your story. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you, and I will leave us by saying bear down and happy
Bear
Black History
down.
Month.